Good evening. This is Rabbi Brovender Parsha Shiur, the WebYeshiva, and we're going to learn the Parsha today. This Parsha, Parshat Vikehel-Pekudei, the last two Parshiyot of the book of Shemot, Tavshin Peivav, our year, is called Vayakehel and Matan Torah. Leilui Nishmat, this shiur is dedicated in honor of Chana Sarah Bat Yitzchak Yehuda Halevi, Alea Hashalom. The pasuk, I have to remind you, Matan Torah, the event that we call Matan Torah, which is a combination of special events that took place at Har Sinai, plus the giving of certain Torah material to Moshe Rabbeinu. And in some places it seems it's the Ten Commandments that received, in some places the entirety of the Torah, although we understand that the historical parts of the Torah were not given to Moshe Rabbeinu before the history actually took place. So this parasha, Vayakehel, the last two parashiyot in the book of Shemot, represents the end of the story of Matan Torah. And the beginning of the story of Matan Torah is in the parasha of Yitro, which we hopefully will look at as we go along this evening. So look at the pasuk. Look at the pasuk which we have. I'll put it in. Vayakehel Moshe et kol adat b'nei Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu got everybody together. Well, when was this? When did this happen? This is the end of the end. Vayomer alehem, and Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asot otam. There was a lot of the Torah that was given to Bnei Yisrael in the desert. For example, the halachot of Shmitat Zra'im, the thing that grow in the ground on the sabbatical year. I mean, you couldn't do them in the desert. Kol adat Bnei Yisrael, the entire community of Bnei Yisrael, vayomer alehem, eila hadvarim. These are the things that tziva Hashem la'asot otam. It could be understood as saying these are the things that you better start doing right away. And that's continued by a special emphasis on the Shabbat. Sheshet yamim ta'aseh melacha v'yom hashvi yiyeh lachem kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton l'Hashem ki oseh bo melacha yumatz. So the halacha that has to do with Shemitah, with Shabbat. I'm sorry, halacha that has to do with Shabbat. So again, Moshe Rabbeinu gets everybody together. Kol adat b'nei Yisrael. And he said to them, Yesh Shabbat. Now they knew about Shabbat. They learned about Shabbat in the Parsha of Beshalach, and they learned about the Shabbat in the Parsha of Kitisa. They learned about Shabbat again and again. But when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, and Rashi says, you see the Rashi, Vayakehel Moshe? Rashi, Vayakehel Moshe, B'macharat Yom HaKippurim. Yom HaKippurim is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down Har Sinai. We know the Cheshbon. You start the Rosh Chodesh Elul, 30 days, and then another 10 days, and that's the 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai. And at the end of those 40 days, K'sheyarad Moshe, K'sheyarad min ha'har, right? V'hu l'shon hif'il. Those of you like grammar, Rashi points out that the binyan, that the word hakel is connected to, is the binyan of hif'il. I cause you to do something. She'eino osef anashim biyadayim, because after all, Vayakehel Moshe doesn't mean that Moshe did it with his hands, that he got them together. Anashim biyadayim. Elahein ne'esafim al ti diburo, but they were collected, ne'esafim al pi diburo, because Moshe Rabbeinu said it. He said to them, "Vayomer alehem ela hadvarim," and they all came to listen to what he had to say. V'targumo, Achadash. We used to get together, get them all together. And then, okay. So that's the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end started on Vav, on Yud Tishrei, the 10th day of Tishrei. Rashi says, L'macharat Yom HaKippurim, Kishe Yarad Min Ahar. When Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai and brought with him what he brought with him, and he turned to the people and he said, I'm teaching you now Torah Sheba'al Peh. I'm teaching you now something that you have to know. I can't wait. And what he taught him was that they have to keep Shabbat, that the world had changed. There was a world before Matan Torah without mitzvot, and now there was a world, a new world in which there were mitzvot. And therefore, Sheshet Yomim Taseh Melacha, B'Yom HaShvi'i Yeh Lachem Kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton L'Hashem, Kol Oseh Bo Melacha Yumat. And there's the introduction of Sachar Ba'onesh. It just existed in the world. Before it existed a different way. Today, Sachar Ba'onesh is something that we have to all be involved with. Kol Oseh Bo Melacha Yumat. So Rashi says, L'macharat Yom HaKippurim Ad Menahar. It was the day after Yom Kippurim, not the Yom HaKippurim of that year, but maybe Yom Kippurim of ultimate years. V'hu l'shon hif'il. Rashi says, hif'il is a binyan, is one of that's how we learn grammar, even until today. Not much of a change from the way Rashi understood the grammar and the way we understand the grammar. Even though there are more modern ways of kind of dividing up the binyanim, but we still do it in the good old way. She'eino osef anashim b'yadayim. It's not, the intention is not, Moshe did it with his hands, vayakheil Moshe, right? Vayakheil Moshe, that he did it with his hands. Elo einesaf maltidid buro. But Moshe Rabbeinu said, I have something to say. He's screaming out at the people, I have something to tell you. And so Rashi says that because it's the Torah. The Torah was passed down from Moshe by words. And so Rashi emphasized that by Yakel Moshe, it doesn't mean that he did it with some other vessel or a, but he did it with words. When he came down from the mountain, he was on the mountain from Rosh Chodesh Elul until the 10th of Tishrei. V'hu l'shon hif'il. This is the binyan called hif'il. She'no osef anashim b'yadayim Eloheim ne'esafim al pi diburo. That Moshe Rabbeinu said something which caused everybody to come and collect together to listen to what he had to say. Right? V'targumo v'achnash. Together, to bring them together. Okay, to bring them together. That's what Rashi says. So it's hard to understand, like, what's this? What is this lesson? What is it that I'm learning here in the parasha of Vayikehel? But it seems to me that giving the Torah to the people had several stages in it. First, the Torah had to be to Moshe Rabbeinu. And then from Moshe Rabbeinu, it had to be, Moshe Rabbeinu had to learn the Torah by heart. They had to be able to understand and know the Torah. And finally, the Torah had to be passed on to the people who were waiting to receive the Torah, but they received the Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. They didn't receive the Torah directly from God. But there was an indication that they had, that they all had, that they heard the Torah. They heard that the Torah somehow came from God. They knew that. The people knew that because they heard the divine giving of the Torah. They participated somehow in the Aseret that they brought in the Ten Commandments. So the Ten Commandments were a one-time event. It wasn't something that was repeated. But the Torah would be taught to Bnei Yisrael, by Moshe Rabbeinu over a long period of time. The period of time in the desert. What would happen? And after the fate of the Meraglim, of the spies that were sent by Moshe Rabbeinu to spy out the land before they came to Eretz Canaan, and the people kind of rejected that opportunity. So with the land, with the rejection of the land, there was a rejection of the Torah as well. It was the Torah originally, probably, I mean, I'm guessing, but it seems to me to be reasonable to say that if they would have gone from Har Sinai directly to Eretz Canaan, they would have learned the Torah in Eretz Canaan. The original method indicated a special kind of combination between Eretz Yisrael, the physical place of Eretz Yisrael, and the Torah which would come to Bnei Yisrael through the teachings of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the teaching of Moshe Rabbeinu begins in the Parsha of Vayikahel, the teaching of Torah. Vayikahel Moshe kol adat Bnei Yisrael, vayomer aleihem, elu hadvarim asher tzivah Hashem va'asot otam. Mitzvot. There are mitzvot, they're called dvarim, asher tzivah Hashem, and those mitzvot are Moshe Rabbeinu decided to teach right away. And it's interesting that the first mitzvah that Moshe Rabbeinu teaches is called Shabbat. Talks about Shabbat. Sheishet yamim taseh melacha, u'yom hashvi'i yeh lechem kodesh, Shabbat Shabbatot l'Hashem. Right? The seventh day of the week, every week from now on is called Shabbat. Shabbat Shabbatot l'Hashem. Kol hoseh bo melacha yumat. The punishment for somebody who denies the Shabbat, hoseh bo melacha, does labors on the Sabbath day, hoseh bo melacha, yumat. Right, that's his punishment. So that's the beginning. That's the beginning of the new world. The beginning of the new world starts with the Parsha Vayikahel. Vayikahel is the two summarizing parashiyot, Vayikahel-Pekudei, of Matan Torah, which discusses the content of that Matan Torah, which was given by Moshe Rabbeinu to Bnei Yisrael orally. Right, Moshe Rabbeinu said it, Bnei Yisrael learned it, and they were in a new world. They were in a world of mitzvot. Those mitzvot oblige Bnei Yisrael every year, all the time. The obligation is there all the time, again and again. And if you don't, or if you deny the obligation, just the Ramban, a little bit of the Ramban, I want to go on. Vayikahel Moshe et kol adat b'nei Yisrael kalul kol adat b'nei Yisrael. Who are they? Who's kol adat b'nei Yisrael? Rashi didn't explain that exactly. So Ramban says anashim. That's kol adat b'nei Yisrael. The word Eidah refers to the mixture of men and women. Anashim v'anashim. Klomar hitnadvu b'mlechet hamishkan. Itnadvu b'mlechet hamishkan. Who are these people? We know who they are. They're everybody. But the Ramban means what was the special aspect of their designation. And he says interestingly enough, ki kulam hitnadvu b'mlechet hamishkan. Kulam hitnadvu b'mlechet hamishkan. They all offered their services in building the Mishkan, the tabernacle. V'hinei Moshe chesed tziva la'acharan la'aron v'anesiim, and Moshe Rabbeinu, after he commanded Aaron and the Nesiim, v'chol b'nei Yisrael anashim v'kol asher כל אשר דיבר השם איתו בהר סיני אחר שיבור הלוחות, all the things that Moshe Rabbeinu discussed or heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu after he broke the luchot, v'natan al panav hamasveh, v'natan al panav hamasveh. You know that Moshe Rabbeinu went down from Har Sinai after the first 40 days that he was on Sinai. Natan al panav masveh, he put this mask on his face because the light was so great that the people couldn't bear it. Chazar b'tzivah, v'yikilu elav et kol ha'edah. Then Moshe Rabbeinu said, let everybody come here. I want to say something. I have something to say to everybody. Kol ha'akeilah elav kol ha'edah nashim v'nashim. V'yitachein אנשים ונשים וייתכן sorry, I have to make it a little smaller. Okay, I'll try to read it this way. שציווה אהרון והנשיאים כל בני ישראל, הנשים והנשים והטף, one second. Just 1 second, I'm sorry. ישראל אנשים כל סין אחרי שברו הלוחות. You know that the Ramban is the one who taught us. The Ramban taught us the following, that Bnei Yisrael, like the event of Har Sinai, was the creation of a place. There was a place in the world of Am Yisrael that something special happened. And when there's a space, when there's a place that something special happened, what we tend to do is try to find a way to designate that space, to make it possible. The halacha is, if a miracle happened to you on the trip that you took, or you feel that the miracle happened to you without being able to check on the idea of miracles. And so what you'll do naturally and what you'll do halachically is you'll designate that place. You put a stone there. You'll put some sort of a statue in that area to remind you when you come back to that place that it's a great place to daven. I mean, after all, if a miracle took place in that place, you want to daven there as well. So that Har Sinai, the creation of of the Torah, or the place where the Torah was given from Bnei Yisrael to Moshe Rabbeinu, from Moshe Rabbeinu to Bnei Yisrael, that place was the creation of place. It was the creation of place. I mean, it could have been the creation of place by Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak and Akedah Yitzchak, but we understand that was not the entirety of Am Yisrael. That wasn't a nation. That was a family, a father and his son. But the nation that created the place, that needed the place, that was Har Sinai. The first thing they did after Har Sinai was to leave. They didn't stay in the place. So the Ramban taught us that the building of the Mishkan, the building of the tabernacle in the desert, that was the idea of place. And if you look at the tabernacle, if you look at the Mishkan, you'll see that you can compare much of the Mishkan to the event of Har Sinai. So for the Ramban, it's not true that something happened at Har Sinai and then we forgot about it, even though it's true that we don't know exactly where Har Sinai was, even today. Even the archaeologists have not managed to be able to help us determine the exact place of Har Sinai. So you have to imagine that even the fact that we don't know something is significant. What's significant about not knowing where Har Sinai is, that the idea that the Ramban had, which he gave to us at the beginning of the Parsha of Truma, right? The Ramban gave it to us for free, and that is that the event of Matan Torah, the event, not just the content of the Torah, but the event of Matan Torah is something that we watch over and we keep it for ourselves and we take care of it. And we do that first by the Mishkan and then by the Mikdash. And then it could be, the Gemara says that all the shuls in Babel, all the Batei Knesset that we built and that we daven in, all of those places are Mikdash Ma'at. We build them because we are who we are. We can build them because we are who we are, right? Moshe, you see where I am? Aaron and Nesiyim, Mikol B'nei Yisrael, Anashim, Kol Asher, Vayav Har Sinai, Achrei, Shibur HaLuchot. After Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchot, he's going through all of Har Sinai, HaMasveh, and he put the Masveh on his face. In other words, part of Matan Torah is that you can't even see the reflection of it. You can't even see where it reflects off the face of Moshe Rabbeinu. V'natan al panav masveh. That becomes part of the memory of what happened at Har Sinai. And the memory of what happened at Har Sinai is one of the memories of Kulam Inyana Mishkan. I'm sorry, V'natan al panav masveh. Chazar b'tziva v'yigilu elav kol ha'ida Hashem and Hashem. נתן להם הקדוש ברוך הוא ונתן לו הלוחות שניות וחרט עמו ואמר לכולם, סליחה, one line up, ואמר לכולם עניין המשכן אשר נצטווה בו מתחילה קודם שמור הלוחות. And he says, וציווה והקהילה להם אליו כל עדים ונשים, ונתן לכם הקדוש ברוך הוא ונתן ללוחות שניות, וקראת עמו ברית חדשה שילך השם בקרבם ולאהבת כלולותם, ובידוע שתהיה שכינתו בתוכם כעניין שציווה תחילה, כמו שאמר ושכנתי בתוכם. In other words, you have to see Matan Torah as in two worlds. There's Matan Torah, the world of God, that experience was available to everybody at Har Sinai, everybody who was there, of course, but all the people who came to participate in this event at Har Sinai, all those people who came to Har Sinai, and also the people after Har Sinai who decided that they can't really bear the light of Torah that came from Moshe Rabbeinu when he was coming down from Har Sinai, and he had to put a mask on his face in order to make it possible for Bnei Israel to bear it. So that somehow, for some reason we don't understand, but it helps us to understand the Chet HaEgel perhaps, but for some reason we don't understand, Bnei Israel were not able to participate fully in the Matan Torah, because the Torah, the essential Torah, I could call it that, the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu received was not the Torah that they were able to receive. Yes, it may be the Aseret HaDibrot were taught to Bnei Israel by Moshe Rabbeinu. It could be, but the rest of the Torah was taught by Moshe Rabbeinu, who learned the exact nature of the Torah in the Ohel Moed, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu communicated to him the Torah that he was to teach the Bnei Israel. So Bnei Israel knew that there was a Torah. They experienced it. They knew that Moshe Rabbeinu had received the Torah. They experienced that as well. But the entirety of the Torah was received by Bnei Israel through the agency of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who was able to communicate the Torah to Bnei Israel, but that was only after he put a mask on. Only after he put the mask on his face was he able to participate. Was he able to participate in the teaching of the Torah to Bnei Israel? So we start over again. We now know that the Mishkan is a continuation, at least according to the Ramban, is a continuation of Matan Torah. It has all these elements to remind us of what happened at the time that we participated in receiving the Torah, even though it's not actually the same. It's not the same. And as a side point, I think it's also pointed out by the Rabbi Brovender on the Ramban. But as a side point, it turns out that the Mishkan is built in the model of Har Sinai. So while we don't celebrate the geographic place of Har Sinai, and Rabbi Brovender points out that we don't even know where Har Sinai is exactly. I mean, even the traditions that existed in the desert at Sinai, we still don't really know where the desert, where Har Sinai was in that desert. But we're able to we're able to understand that that these two aspects, I mean, of the Torah, the aspect of the light that we couldn't bear, and the aspect of the building that was done by donations and more regular kind of creation, a creation that's worthy of Bnei Adam, of man. Our creation, the creation of man is worthy because it's done by man, by physical objects. It produced a Mishkan. It was generally remarkable but reasonable, whereas Matan Torah itself, the Matan Torah, the Aseret they brought was Matan Torah, and Matan Torah of Aseret Dibrot was the Man Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu received. Not the Matan Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu passed on to us, but the Matan Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu himself received. Now again, I want to put just I think a point that might be helpful in understanding all of this. Yeah. Shmot Perek Yutet. You see Shmot Perek Yutet? That's the chapter in Yitro that precedes the Aseret HaDibrot. So it says, "V'yichodesh hashlishi l'tzeit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim b'yom hazeh bo'u midbar Sinai." So we understand, b'yom hazeh bo'u Sinai. This is the beginning of Matan Torah. They're in midbar Sinai. They're in the desert of Sinai. The same problem. Vayisu mirfidim vayavo midbar Sinai vayachanu midbar vayichan sham Yisrael neged hahar. Okay. Moshe Allah al Elokim vayikra elav Hashem vayomer lebeit Yaakov v'tkitoma lebeit Yaakov v'taged lebnei Yisrael. We all know Rashi says what the Ramban says in the end, right? We're now talking about Perek Yutet. Perek Yutet is the bracket around Chet HaEgel. And what we learned before Perek Kafeh is the bracket that ends the story. This is the bracket the open bracket that starts the story, and so there's an Eidah. Eidah meaning men and women together. That's what Rashi said. You've seen what happened to Mitzrayim. Asayetchem v'avietchem Elai. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants everybody in the community, or the Eidah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants everybody in the Eidah to be a witness. To be a witness to what is going on. Atem ritem, asher asiti Mitzrayim. That's one thing. Sachar va'onesh. There are good people get good things, and bad people get bad things. V'sayetchem v'etchem elai. V'ata im shamot tishma'u b'koli u'shmartem et briti v'yitem li segula. V'yitem li segula mikol ha'amim. Dimei segula mikol ha'amim. Pasuk Vav. Atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. What is this? Atem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. You will be designated. You will be special. You will be Ovdei Hashem. Mamlechet kohanim, goy kadosh. I mean, what could that mean? You're going to change. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Bnei Yisrael that the Torah is going to change them, that they have to be prepared to accept the Torah. What does that mean? What do you mean prepared? What do they have to prepare? They don't know what the Torah is. They don't know what's in it. They don't be obliged to do. Atem tiyulim mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, meaning you have to be ready to change. You have to be ready to be a different kinds of person. Eila dvarim shadaber al bnei Yisrael. El bnei Yisrael. Zion, by Zayin Moshe, vayikra l'ziknei ha'am vayasem lifneihem et dvarim. Kol hadvarim ha'ela asher tzivau ba'av ha'anan ba'avu yishma ha'am b'dabri imach v'gam b'cha yaminu le'olam. So now we have this words ba'av ha'anan in the darkness of the cloud. In other words, not light, but obviously there's going to be a distinction, right? The distinction between us and the light. The light is going to be a cloud. You will be understood. They'll be able to know that you are the messenger of God. I mean, how are they going to know that? Only by divine prophecy. It's the only way to know that. I mean, how will they know who Moshe Rabbeinu is? By get Moshe et Divrei Ha'am, et Divrei Ha'am. Divrei Ha'am el Hashem. Vayomer Shema Moshe lecha el Ha'am v'kidashtam hayom v'achar v'kisuf sivlotav. You have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself that you're going to an important event, at an important time. ויחפשו סמלותם, והיו נכונים ליום השני, יום השלישי ירד השם לעיני כל הקהל על הר סיני. והגבלת את העם סביב לאמור. So right in the preparatory material, we have this pasuk. והגבלת את העם סביב לאמור. Which means that they're not going to really be able to approach. They're not going to be able to receive the Torah as you, Moshe Rabbeinu, are going to receive the Torah. Le'mor, Hishamru lechem, watch yourselves. Hishamru lechem, alot bahar negar b'tkatzeyu. Ken. אני נותן שיעור, עוד רבע שעה, טוב? גבזו סבלותם, פסוק ט"ו, ויאמר, ויאמר אל העם, היו נכונים לשלושת ימים, אל תקשו את אישה. There's got to be some kind of distinction that's made about these people about to receive the Torah. ויהי ביום השלישי, בהיות הבוקר, ויקר, ויהי קולת עולות. כבד על ההר וכל שופר חזק מאוד, בהכרעת כל העם, אשר במחנה, ויוצא משה את העם המחנה, ויתבצבו בתחתית ההר, והר סיני ישן כולו מפני אשר ירד עליו, השם באש, ויכרד כל ההר מאוד. So the point that I wanted to make, even though it's a little late, but the point that I wanted to make was this, that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu prepared Bnei Yisrael for Matan Torah. He prepared them for two things, or two different things. One was the Kabbalat Torah, the essential Torah, the real Torah. And the other was the inability to accept that real Torah. So that real Torah that we're talking about is the Torah of Aseret HaDibrot. The Torah of Aseret HaDibrot, which came. I'll finish one sentence. Don't run away. We just had we have a hazakah in my house here. The Torah would be given by Bnei Yisrael. They'll know that it's the real Torah. They have no doubt about it. They understand perfectly, because it would be given to them in a perfect manner in the Parsha of Yitro. Right, in the Parsha of Yitro, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came down on the mountaintop and Bnei Yisrael were there, they all heard the Aseret HaDibrot. But the Talmud Torah, the ability to find the Torah malleable to my intellectual curiosity, to be able to think about what the Torah really wants me to do and what the Torah wants of me, that is going to be done as the result of Diber Moshe el Bnei Yisrael. The words that Moshe Rabbeinu said to Bnei Yisrael, those are the words that Moshe Rabbeinu received. So that in the parsha itself, is to like summarize, we know that Truma Tetzaveh a parallel to Vayakehel-Pekudei. Truma is about Kalei HaMikdash, the vessels. Tetzaveh is more about the big day kahuna and the building of the Beit HaMikdash. The same thing is true about Vayikahel-Pekudi. Vayikahel-Pekudi. So in both cases, there's a part that you build and a part that is beyond. And it's just that it may be that the Chet HaEgel changed this switch over from building and not building to Vayikahel-Pekudi, which starts with building. Okay, I'm getting a note from my wife who's telling me that I have to go. Hello? Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Rabbi Brovender.
I think I have to go to a